I'm Lynn Wheeler, and I'm delighted to be here interviewing John Greene. And we are sitting in the old New Windsor Middle School, which is now renovated for the library headquarters. And John graduated from this school in 1959. And John, I'd like you to share some of your memories of this school. I understand you went here from 1948 to 1959. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. We moved here from Montgomery County in 1948, and I came in as a transfer student in 3rd grade. And I think my teacher's name was Miss Carey at that time. And then I went through Mrs. Wilt, Mrs. Harmon, Mrs. Ivy, and then got elevated into the high school. Things were different back then in that period of time, and the roads wasn't as good, and very little television. But it was a good education. It was a wonderful school, and I'm very proud that Carroll County decided to save this school. I remember the other two schools that was involved in this immediate area, the Elmer Wolf School and the Tawnytown High School, which is now Tawnytown's a plaque and a ball pill, and Elmer Wolf is the elementary school. But this particular school, mainly, is still here, and the hallways are here. I can still see the rooms.
Well, you said that while you were here, the school got very crowded, and you had to lose the shop and move into the cafeteria. Is that right?
Yes, the shop was replaced in classrooms. We had classes in the economic classes, etc. We had classes in the cafeteria down there. That created somewhat of a disservice for me at that particular time, since when I did finally graduate, I had a general education diploma, as we want to say, and then I went out to try to get a job as some type of a skilled laborer or whatever, and I went down to Sparrows Point down Bessemer Steel at the time, and I had to take a tool test, you know, about my knowledge of tools and everything. Well, by not having shop for 1 or 2 years, that was a big disadvantage, you know, and I didn't have the ability to do it. So I lost out on those particular things on that thing. But you know what? We have to adapt. You know, we have to overcome those particular things. One of the best memories that I did have out of this particular place, I think we had a teacher called Mr. Hanson, and maybe he was our economic teacher. And I think that class was in 1958. We took a field trip, and we went down to Baltimore to a place called C&P Telephone, Chesapeake Telephone place. This was a change of event in my particular life, because we toured that place, and I was exposed to something that I'd never seen before. It was called data processing. At that time, they had these things called IBM cards. These cards, you know, they had the holler code punched in them, and you ran them through there, and they tabulated things, and they ran reports on that. Well, that set the seeds and the motions early on for me off that one field trip. Just to give you a little more background, well, what did I do with that? Well, what happened was I couldn't do this thing about the job at Bessemer Steel. And I thought about the Army. Even the yearbook said I was going to be a good Marine, but maybe that was all talk than anything else. But anyhow, I sat down with my father at that time, and I said, Dad, you know, you're in the business of drilling wells. Why don't you and I get in business together and learn this? He says, son, you know, it's tough business. You shouldn't do that. You ought to look at something else that has a little more future. So, okay, so I fell back to another position and thought about it, and came back to him a couple of months later with a folder. And I said, Dad, how about me going down to this place called Baltimore Institute down on Chase Street in Baltimore? He says, well, what do they do down there? Well, it's a data processing class down there. It's got these things called electronic accounting machines. Well, teach me how to do collating, teach me how to do accounting machines, well, all this stuff. Oh, really? How much is that, John? He says, I think it's $500. He said to his second wife, Genevieve, give me the checkbook. He gave me $500 and said, go sign up and go do this. Now, what did that do for me? Now I'm exposed to the Baltimore market, because that's where I'm going to school down there for 4 months. Got around older people, whatever, started telling me about civil service tests and these kind of things. Did the class, got out, went to Hagerstown in 1960 in February, took the civil service test. Got a government job in August of 1960.
Very good.
Okay, that was a turning event, that little field trip.
That's wonderful.
Okay, I spent 38 years with Small Business Administration and other government agencies. Okay, but I started out at a little school that didn't have a shop, didn't have these other things, but it's what you get exposed to and how you get going and get started and whatever.
That's excellent. Now, John, I understand that you did participate in some musicals in the school. Is that right?
Absolutely. You know, if you look at my yearbook out here, I'm the class clown. Now, you know, that just wasn't deliberately they told me about that, because I was a jokester. I had a lot of fun. I didn't take things very seriously. And as I said to you before, I wasn't the scholar in the class, to say the least. But I did have this thing with Elvis Presley, root of sideburns and everything, and we had a assembly in the gym down here, and I put on the Hound Dog Show and Don't Be Cruel Show, and did the dance and everything, and yeah, the girls all loved it. Everybody enjoyed that show, and you know, I kept being called Elvis Presley for a long time. Now, we have our 50th anniversary graduation thing coming up, and I was talking to a couple of class members. They said, we need to do something special. And they suggested we go to Ocean City or go to Lancaster, and I said, you know what, why don't we really do something special that allows us to be together for a certain period of time, and also it brings us back into our era. Well, John, what the Lord would you think we ought to be doing? I said, we need to charter a bus. And we're going to get on that bus and we're going to go to Cleveland. Now, why we want to go to Cleveland? We want to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's our people out there. You know, and on the way back, we can stop at the Football Hall of Fame and see Johnny U from the Baltimore Colts. Now, then we can spend 4 or 5 hours together going out and 4 or 5 hours coming back. We'd see each other again for 50 years.
That's a great plan, John.
So,
I hope that happens.
I do, too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I understand you were very involved in the 1956 election as a young man, a teenager. You really studied that, huh?
Well, I was exposed to it on television that night. That was the race between Dwight Eisenhower on his re-election bid and Adlai Stevenson, which is his second chance at that presidency. And his vice president candidate was Estes Kieshofer at that time. I spent the whole evening watching that late in the night, and I memorized all that. And that's one of the good things I do have. I can memorize things. And the thing was, I remember how each state went and all the anecdotes, the little stories they told about the election, sort of like C-SPAN now, you know, except that was me at that day. So I came back to school the next day. Maybe I was late that morning, but anyhow, someplace in the time I told my history teacher, and her name was Mrs. Kephart, I says, you know, I can tell you about this election. Oh, really? So I did about 10 minutes for her in private. Then she said, you know what, I need to put you up to the whole class. And that was just my class initially. Well, after I got done with that, she said, you know what, you got to do the seniors and the ninth grade and everybody else too, because you have this thing down. So I did the whole class for that, and then they thought I should become a law student and everything. But I really did enjoy that. It's the political cycles, it's the games and the stuff that they play in there. And I did remember that. So maybe I could rattle on with this stuff today, and that's one of my current things. You remember long-term memory a whole lot better than you do short-term.
Yes.
I lose my glasses before I leave the room. But I can tell you something happened in 1959. So.
Well, it is nice that you had so many wonderful memories of this school and things that were really important, and I'm so glad that you were willing to share those with us so that we can share those with the community, John.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.